What's up, fam? It's aka Steve. Super grateful for you tuning in. This is now episode 2 of my weekly podcast where I talk about things that I'm passionate about, things that I'm learning, and I'm even kind of working towards getting some interviews on here soon enough with underground creators from, SoundCloud artists, filmers, to people in the fashion scene, visual artists. I mean, who knows who's going to pop up along this journey? And I've always got my eyes peeled online and whatnot for people. But I'll be releasing this podcast once every weekend. And today, I'm going to be talking about a very powerful phenomenon, which we should really try to make a habit in our lives. And that is clarity. Clarity of self, as in knowing who we are and who we would like to be. Clarity of mind, just being grounded, at peace, and not struggling. And you can't just be clear in the mind without having a clear body. And I'll explain more about that later on in the podcast. But in no way, shape, or form am I perfect, nor do I plan on ever being perfect. I'm still a bit of a space cadet. So I'm still certainly working on gaining clarity within myself, but I really feel like clarity of self, knowing who we are, is very important. I mean, you'll just make it so much farther, and you'll make it there faster when you know your strengths and you give those strengths more energy than you're giving your shortcomings. Now, let me explain just a quick little story about myself and just my creative journey in general. When I first started creating and releasing things online, I decided to pursue music because, I had a lot of passion for it. It was pretty much the only thing I cared about growing up. It was kind of what I identified with. I knew I didn't want to work a regular job, and I also just loved the grind and hustle. So I kind of got a little instinct to pursue music, and I went ahead, I trusted my gut. I became a beat maker. Now, I went hard as fuck on this for 2 years, every fucking day, making beats, editing videos, reading books about, self-growth and online business. And after 2 years of going hard, I was really gaining very little traction with my instrumentals. And I kind of felt like I had wasted 2 years of my life or something. But the interesting thing about this was that people were really liking the cartoon art I was making for my beats. And I was making this cartoon art so that I would kind of stand out from everybody else, because at the time everybody was making tight beats on YouTube and every single producer looked the same visually. So I kind of wanted to stand out in a way. And that's what really ended up making me make the change from pursuing music to more of the arts, because I realized drawing came to me a lot more naturally than music did. Music, I don't really have the rhythm for it. Music just wasn't for me. So I pretty much did the exact same thing as I did with music. Every single day, I would draw, read books, listen to podcasts by brilliant minds that inspired me. And that's kind of led me to where I am today, where I really think I'm starting to get a little bit of traction online. And I really feel like I have found my lane, because I love the art and creating that. But I'm also passionate about learning and taking knowledge and spreading it, which is why this podcast is even a thing. So please, I encourage you, trust your gut. Figure out for yourself, what do you love? What would you like to do every single day if money wasn't even an option? Pursue that. It may not lead you directly to your ultimate goal, but you will learn the necessary skills to get there along the way. Figure out what you're good at. And if you enjoy what you're good at and you're excited about it, you have passion for it, there will be no fucking stopping you. So that's clarity of self, knowing who you are, knowing your uniqueness. Now let's take a little look at clarity of who we want to be. And when I say be, I mean our being. We are human beings. What type of energy do you want to bring to the table? How do you want to make people feel? What's your vibe? It's really quite amazing how oftentimes when you really set an intention in your mind, let's just say you intend to make your friends laugh. Simply setting that intention will oftentimes cause you to start coming up with the ideas and the humor and the just fun things to say when you're with them. And that right there is the power of intention. I read a beautiful intention one time from, it's a book written by Deepak Chopra. I think that's how you say his name. It's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And the intention in the book that really resonated with me was, I will give a gift to every single person I encounter, whether that's in the form of a compliment, a hug, listening intently, or even just silently wishing them happiness. Now this just hit me so hard. It really struck me, and I've tried to incorporate this in my life a lot. Because when you truly wish someone happiness, there's no longer room for animosity, jealousy, or any of those kind of weaker emotions. And this is something I'm trying to hardwire into my brain so that every time I meet someone, I'm triggered into that thought of wishing, absolute happiness and abundance for the other person. Now that's a little tool that you can use, using triggers. One of my favorite triggers to use is a doorway. So every time I enter a doorway, I quickly ask myself, what kind of energy do I intend to bring into this room? How do I want to make other people feel? And boom, an intent was created in the mind. And usually those intentions really do become your reality. Now look, I said it before, I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint. I do get jealous at times. But being jealous is actually an opportunity to grow past it, like having the awareness to see it and then asking yourself, why are you jealous? Why are you jealous? There's no need to be jealous. There's more than enough for us all to strive and prosper on earth. There's more than enough. There's an abundance of it. Don't be jealous. Wish for them more abundance and happiness. And on top of that, be grateful. I mean, if they can do it, you can do it too. And these are kind of the things that I like to tell myself and just go through if I ever have feelings of jealousy, and just remind myself, bro, there's so much on this earth. Relax a little bit. So that's intention. What do you intend to give to the world? Now let's talk a little bit about clarity of mind. Most of us kind of live this life where we're just going with the flow and we're kind of being dragged along by life in a way. But it's really my belief that we have the ability to create our own lives, however we wish. Like if you have the freedom to listen to this podcast, that means you probably have a phone and you probably have some free time. You may be busy. I totally get that. I'm busy too. But nonetheless, you are very fortunate. Just like me, we're very lucky. And since we're so fortunate, we have to take responsibility. We can't keep blaming others for where we're at in life for certain elements that are here. We can't keep blaming our parents, friends, or whoever. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and our life situation. We're co-creators in this world. We're human beings. We have a lot of creative power. And I believe we can really create our dream life. And the more clear we are within our minds, the faster we can create our dream life. Because you're building the blueprint in your head. We're telling our subconscious mind, which is actually the part of our mind that's running our life, we tell our mind exactly who we are and what we want from the world and what we're willing to give back to the world, because there's no receiving without giving first. So we need to stop letting life, drag us around like a rag doll. And we need to first take responsibility for our life. Now, it may not be our fault that we're a little fucked up. We could have been raised by people with their own issues, or our environment could have, been kind of fucked up. Who, what, where, and how this happened, it doesn't matter. The fact is, from this moment on, our life is our responsibility. And since this is the case, we must start setting intentions in order to better take control of where our life is going. Now, the last segment on clarity that I just want to touch on a little bit has to do with the body. I'm super curious about the body. I believe we have an immense amount of intuition held within our body that, the mind, no matter how fucking smart you are, the mind just can't reach a certain level of intuition and truth that your body has. And like I said earlier about, trusting your gut, trusting your feelings. Your body cannot lie. It will always tell you the truth. The mind can lie. The mind can get cluttered and confused very easily, but your body will always tell you the truth. And the mind is also not so separate from the body. In fact, they're actually reflections of each other. So when you have a shitty thought, you feel it. It's visceral, and you have a good thought. You feel it too, immediately. The body is always reflecting what's going on in your mind, which must mean the mind is also reflecting the body. And if you're constantly consuming bad foods, it's going to make you feel worse. And if you feel worse, you can bet your ass you're going to start thinking worse too. Now, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do with their lives. That's not my job. I'm just here to share things I'm learning. And if you decide for yourself to take action, amazing. I had a minor little health scare a few weeks ago, which really got me to become very aware of the foods that I'm consuming, because I want to be my best self. So I've decided to pretty much completely cut out dairy, a lot of sugar, and gluten, because I realized these are foods that my body doesn't like. And then I thought about, the relation that it has on my mind and just my being. And so I just want to cut out some of that stuff that's not meant for me and go on a little bit of a healthier route that way. So I encourage you to become just a little bit more aware of what you're consuming, because all the food you eat is really being turned into our cells. Like, we're literally what we eat. The food we digest is turning into our body. And not only that, guys, trust your body, love it, and give your body what it seeks. Listen to it. That's a big thing too, is really giving it awareness and listening to your body, asking your body what's best for you. It's a feeling, you guys. Like, you know what I mean? It's a feeling when you ask yourself, what's the right decision to make? It's not only logical. There's a feeling behind it too. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for this podcast. We talked about clarity of self, knowing who the fuck we are, knowing what we're good at, our strengths. We talked about clarity of who we want to be, as in our energy, our being, what type of energy we want to bring into rooms, and how we want to make other people feel. And that's kind of the power of intention. And we also talked about responsibility for ourselves, taking responsibility of our life situation. And lastly, we kind of briefly talked about having a clear body and how the mind and body aren't so separate, and how we hold a lot of intuition within our bodies. Now, before I let you guys go, I really want you to take something concrete from this podcast, and I invite you to create a trigger. So whether you get triggered every time you meet someone to wish them abundance and happiness, or you get triggered by a doorway to set an intention as to what kind of energy you want to bring into a room. Let's make triggers a habit so that we can live a more intentional life. If you made it this far in the podcast, I'm super grateful. I know your time is of value, and I hope you got some value from this audio experience. If you ever want to contact me, just hit me on the DMs. It's probably the easiest way. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Those are my main ones kind of at the moment. My @ is EyeAm, EYEAM, and then period. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really look forward to seeing you next weekend, and I hope you have a solid week ahead. Take care. Peace out.